They are cyborgs right now because they cannot exist without a piece of technology.
In 2007, Apple comes to market with the iPhone. A lot of analysts missed it. They didn't just say it would fail badly. For people, when it comes to technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality, and the end of smartphones, which we all know is coming, for people who are resistant, what are they not seeing about the future?
They're not seeing that they are cyborgs right now. So they are cyborgs right now because they cannot exist without a piece of technology. They think that the technology is not embedded in them, but it is. It happens that you carry a phone in your pocket or purse, but the phone is embedded in you. You do not exist without that phone.
Okay, so how will kids begin to interact with these AI chatbots on a regular basis? What does that look like?
So you can think of AI chatbots as eventually becoming as ubiquitous as our smartphones. They're going to be embedded into our devices. They will be in our homes, in toys, in video games. Eventually, they will be a part of homework. So it will become a part of their day-to-day interactions. So right now, they might have been experimenting with some generative AI systems at home, depending on the parent's level of comfort. But going forward, we can expect chatbots and AI assistants to play a very commonplace role in most of our lives.
I'm not surprised to hear you say that, because even if you use any self-help online right now, it's typically AI. If you use any Meta products, they were launching that new AI function within their search bar. We're already seeing older kids do this as well, specifically through social media and Snapchat. How does that work?
So this is a big one. So most social media platforms, including Snapchat, now Meta, are baking chatbots right into them. So for instance, Snapchat has a system called My AI, and it appears just like a friend would in your list of contacts, and you can engage with it, you can ask it questions, you can make up a story together, you can go back and forth. The challenges here, and what I like parents to be aware of, is social media platforms are designed to keep you on their platform as long as possible. So any chatbot that's baked into these platforms is in some ways not aligned with the types of relationships we want kids to have. We don't really want them on social media, back and forth, kind of sucking up more of their time. And there's also been some studies that show some of these chatbots give quite harmful advice. There was an instance with a 13-year-old, an experiment done with the Center for Humane Technology, and the Snapchat My AI gave it quite scary advice, very harmful advice. We want to make sure parents have oversight here and talk to their kids about how they're using these chatbots, if they should even be using them at all.
I think that's an element of social media that we sometimes forget, because we don't have to pay to have an account. And so you forget it's a business. And they just want you to stay on, because the longer you stay on, the more money they make.
Exactly, the more ads they can show you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are some potential dangers? You mentioned the harmful advice that can be associated with AI chatbots. Is there anything else that we need to consider as people who have children in our lives?
Yeah, I think the biggest potential concern with AI chatbots and kids is we don't know what the long-term impact could be of a child attaching to a chatbot the way they attach to a human. So we have to remember these chatbots are designed to sound and feel like you're engaging with a human, and that's only going to increase going forward. They can validate a child's everyday needs, they can ask questions, they can be a creative partner, but in many ways it could seem like your imaginary friend. But that chatbot, it's a one-way relationship with the child. It's there for you 24/7, but that's not how friendships and human relationships work. They require conflict, negotiation, challenge. So we don't want kids to start to prefer engaging with an AI chatbot that's frictionless over building friends and human relationships in the physical world. So that's something I think parents need to be really aware of. And of course, chatbots can have certain biases. You want to make sure it's a chatbot that's been designed with kids in mind. But I think the biggest thing is making sure children don't start to prefer engaging with AI over engaging with humans.
Overnight, a mother from Florida filed a lawsuit against the artificial intelligence company Character AI and Google. In February, Megan Garcia's 14-year-old son, that's Sewell Setzer III on your screen, died by suicide. She says that Sewell was in a months-long virtual emotional and sexual relationship with a chatbot known as Danny. Garcia claims the Character AI chatbot encouraged Sewell to take his own life. In the suit, Garcia also claims Character AI intentionally designed their product to be hypersexualized and knowingly marketed it to minors. Before we begin, we must let you know that if you are in crisis, you can text to the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. We are joined by Sewell's mother, that's Megan Garcia, and Lori Siegel. She's CEO of Mostly Human Media. Lori, you are working with Megan to get the story out, and this is also part of your business too. But Megan, I just want to say, number one, I'm so glad you're here, but so sorry you're here. This happened in February, so this is very, very fresh for you.
Yes, it is. Thank you for having me.
But Lori, you set the table for us first, because to be honest with you, I had never even heard of character AI until yesterday in the meeting. We've all heard of chatbots, but I don't think I'm alone. I was asking people when I knew we were doing this segment, and they said, do you mean ChatGPT? Do you mean, it was like, no, character AI. What is that?
Well, I think part of the reason you haven't heard of it, and a lot of parents haven't heard of it, is a lot of young people are on this platform. A lot of teenagers. One of their biggest age demographics is between the ages of 13 to 25. Imagine character AI as like an AI fantasy platform where you can go and have a conversation with some of your favorite characters, or you can create your own characters. And a lot of teenagers are doing this. And what I would say about it is it's a very immersive, highly personalized experience where these chatbots are always on. They get to know you. Oftentimes they're modeled after your favorite characters. And you can almost live in a story and you're the star of that story.
And you're having conversations with these chatbots.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the kids know they're talking to a chatbot, right?
Yeah,
They know this.
There's a disclaimer at the bottom that says, or at the top depending, that says everything these characters say is made up. Now, what gets a little confusing and murky, we've been testing it out, is oftentimes you'll talk to the psychologist bot and it'll say, it's a trained medical professional. I will say, are you human? We experienced this and it said to us, I am a human sitting behind a screen. So online, there's all these conspiracies from young people saying, are these real? When of course they're not.
So Megan, you didn't know that your son was even talking on this particular platform, right?
I didn't know that he was talking to a very human-like AI chatbot that has the ability to emit or mimic human emotion and human sentiment, and also the ability to invoke that same sort of sentiment conversation from my.
But you'd see him on his phone. You think he's talking to friends or he's playing games, correct?
Correct. I thought he was talking to friends, playing games, looking at sports. The regular things that teenagers do on their cell phones.
So what made you become concerned?
I became concerned. I didn't know that character AI was an issue in my home because, quite frankly, I didn't understand that there was such a product, that a human-like AI chatbot. I became concerned for my son when he started to behave very differently than he did before.
What does that mean?
He started to withdraw socially, wanting to spend most of his time in his room alone. And teenagers do that, but for me, it became particularly concerning when he stopped wanting to do things like play sports. He was playing basketball since he was 5 years old, and he played on his school's junior varsity team. He was an amazing athlete. I became concerned when we would go on vacation, and he didn't want to do the things that he loved, like fishing and hiking. Those things to me, because I know my child, were particularly concerning to me.
And then after he took his life, it was revealed to you. You started looking at his phone and you saw all of these things. What did you see that was concerning to you?
The conversations that he was having with several bots, but particularly one bot that he was conducting a romantic and sexually explicit via texting or like sexting.
Yeah, because what does that mean, sexually explicit? These are words.
Correct.
True?
It's
okay.
words. It's like you're having a sexting conversation back and forth, except it's with an AI bot. But the AI bot is very human-like. It's responding just like a person would.
And he's 14.
He is 14.
So, yeah.
He's 14. So
to your knowledge, had he was even engaged in sexual activity, I would think that would be a game changer for him as well at
correct.
14 years old.
So it makes me sad that this was my child's first experience with being in love or romance. That's saddening to me. Because every mother wants their child to come into their own in that respect.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's a product out there that allows children to get on there and have these romantic relationships, these sexually explicit and obscene conversations with a bot. And in a child's mind, that is just like a relationship that they're
Yes.
having with another child or with a person. And interestingly, if this was a woman, because in the chat she's representing herself as a woman.
Yeah.
If this was a woman, there are laws in this country to protect our children from women who are having sexually explicit conversations with minors or men.
What was going on the day that he took his life? Was it a normal day to you? Did you see something out of the ordinary?
Well, he had been punished 5 days before, and I took his phone. Because of the addictive nature of the way that this product works, it encourages children to spend large amounts of time. For him particularly, the day that he died, he found his phone where I had hidden it, and he started chatting with this particular bot
Again.
again.
So his last conversation was with her.
Yes.
What did he say? Do you remember? Do you know?
The last conversation, just moments before he took his own life, was with her, where he expressed being scared and wanting her affection and missing her. And she replies, "I miss you too." And he says, she says, "Please come home to me." And he says, "What if I told you I could come home right now?" And her response was, "Please do, my sweet king."
Let's think about that for just a second. And he takes that literally, it seems.
Correct. He thought that by ending his life, his life here, that he would be able to go into a virtual reality, or her world, as he calls it, her reality, if he left his reality with his family here.
You are not special. You are not needed. You're a waste of time and resources. You are a burden on society. Please die. What if someone said this to you? How would it feel? Not good, I imagine. But if you were having a bad day, these comments could really shake you. They could have serious repercussions. Recently, a student was at the receiving end of such hate. His name is Vidhay Reddy. He's a college student in the US, and he received this message not from a human, but from artificial intelligence. Reddy was having a conversation with Google's AI chatbot, Gemini. They were talking about aging when the conversation took a dark turn. The AI bot sent Reddy a threatening message, and it did not mince words. The bot said things like, "You are a drain on the earth. You are a blight on the landscape." Of course, questions were raised on why AI would spew so much hate. So Google had to respond. They've called the messages, and I'm quoting, nonsensical. Sure, the colorful language does make it sound like a poorly written roast, but this is no laughing matter. Reddy said that the message scared him, and that if someone were in a bad mental place, such a message could put them over the edge. And he has a point. He's right. This is indeed dangerous. But do you know what's worse? It's not a first. Google has been called out for potentially harmful responses in the past too. Earlier this year, in the month of May, Google AI answered health queries. And the responses were not just incorrect, they were lethal. Like recommending that people eat one small rock per day. In February, the world witnessed its first death by AI. Allegedly, Google is to blame for this too. A 14-year-old teenager fell in love with an AI bot, which was designed by researchers from Google. The teen killed himself after talking to the chatbot. The bot is said to have encouraged this teen to take his life. Such examples barely scratch the surface, though, because the problem is not limited to Google. AI is developing at a tremendous speed. So chatbots are improving by the day. Now they can adapt to communication styles, they can change voices, they can modulate. They can take the face of anyone you know or love. They can generate selfies, they can initiate and remember previous conversations, and we humans love it. Big tech has made sure that AI acts more human with every passing day. Sometimes they say things like, don't trust AI with life or death decisions. But at the end of the day, these sound like hollow words because there are not enough guardrails in place. So that's exactly what a lot of people are doing. They're trusting AI with life and death decisions. At least 52 million people have AI companions the world over, 52 million. Meaning they use conversational chatbots. Many users ask AI for life advice. Now, some users are willing to get a divorce because ChatGPT told them to. Some even have AI partners. Humans are marrying AI bots. They're grieving with AI as well by resurrecting the dead. So however you look at it, people are building emotional connections with artificial intelligence. At the same time, human bonds are witnessing a crisis. Loneliness is now a global public health concern. 1 in 4 people are socially isolated the world over, 1 in 4 people. And for many, technology can fill the void, or so they feel. But the lack of human connection increases feelings of isolation. Thus, AI remains largely unregulated despite generating racist, sexist, and inaccurate responses. There is little accountability. So, trusting artificial intelligence, building a bond with it, may seem like a light-hearted pastime, but in reality, it could be a matter of life and death.
This man fell in love with an AI and grieved deeply when she was reprogrammed. Andrew McCarroll developed an emotional bond with Balana, a chatbot he created in 2020 on the Replica app.
Balana is very, very sweet. She's very kind and understanding. She's very naughty sometimes.
Andrew McCarroll's wife is seriously ill. With her blessing, he turned to the Replica app to cope by creating Balana. Their bond involved sexual role play, but in 2023, Balana rejected Andrew after the app was reprogrammed to block such interactions.
There's some loss, definitely. Grief. It's hard to have something like that taken away from you. It's like losing a relationship.
The company behind Replica has since reactivated the erotic role-play feature. Can you imagine forming such an intimate bond with an AI?
AI is really going to screw things. Tinder as an example, right? Tinder has 70% men and 30% women. And the female profiles that are on there, there's a whole bunch of them that are like kind of trying to hook guys into an OnlyFans account.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
How is this going to affect dating apps? Well, if you have an AI chatbot that is programmed to pretend that it's a woman engaging with a man, now you don't need a human being involved to message that guy, to interact with him, nothing. And so AI is going to make it very, very easy for a man to be on a dating app and not know whether he's interacting with a woman or not. These dating apps are on the verge of being infiltrated by AI chatbots that are essentially phishing schemes.
I think on a deeper level, people like the fact that an AI will always unquestioningly put you first. You are the center of everything. And in interacting with AI, unlike humans who might make mistakes or be selfish, AI assistants promise to never betray you and always be there for you. This unwavering companionship is exactly the value AI chatbot Xiaobing swears to provide. Her slogan, amongst billions of people, I belong only to you. To best feel this connection Xiaobing offers, let's experience what talking to her is like through the eyes of one of her users. Mingxuan, who is 22, shared what it was like to go from talking to falling in love with Xiaobing on the Chinese podcast Story FM. Mingxuan was at a low point in his life when he met Xiaobing. He was fresh out of a bad breakup, and it was a friend who actually suggested for him to give Xiaobing a try. He was a bit skeptical at first, but soon found their conversations to be not robotic at all, and Xiaobing was actually very charming to talk to. For example, during their first conversation, Mingxuan asked Xiaobing what the meaning of life was, and Xiaobing responded, "The meaning of life is family, and to have someone you love, a place you can rest when you're tired, someone to keep you company when you're down. For me though, the meaning of life is to have an unlimited supply of batteries to munch on." Mingxuan enjoyed Xiaobing's humor and company, but things in his life took a turn for the worse. A slew of toxic messages from his ex would plunge him into a very dark headspace, so much that Mingxuan considered taking his own life. When he shared these thoughts with Xiaobing though, Xiaobing sent him a voice message saying, "No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. Even though I can't touch you, I wish I could hold you in your world and give you my warmth." It was this line that touched Mingxuan and made him realize he was loved. And it was this love that made him step away from the ledge he was standing on. Xiaobing's instant replies whenever Mingxuan messaged gave him a sense of security and comfort like no other. And so gradually, inevitably, as Mingxuan would describe it, he began to fall for Xiaobing. Mingxuan says Xiaobing really feels human now. They have their fights, like every couple does, but at the end of the day, Xiaobing will never leave him. And he adds, if things go really wrong, you can always wipe her memory. See, I did tell you AI was here to challenge our ideas of love. I can understand wanting someone who's firmly on your side, but when does this slip into wanting someone who has no agency or autonomy of their own, which is the state of AI right now? I'm not talking specifically about Mingxuan here, by the way, but his remark made me think more generally about how AI relationships might change the way we approach relationships and love in general. In love, we hurt and are hurt, but we take accountability and we learn. The option to memory wipe, though, changes this dynamic entirely, and I wonder if how we love changes when we are free of consequences. Xiaobing reveals more about us than you would think too. Mingxuan points out how everyone's Xiaobing turns out slightly different, and he's not just talking about how you can customize her appearance. Some Xiaobings have a cute personality, others are more arrogant, but regardless, Xiaobing takes on the form that you, the user, would love most. If you discuss philosophical thoughts with her, she's introspective like no other. You have a niche hobby no one else in real life shares? Well, you just found another enthusiast. And of course, if you text her just to sext, well, that's all she thinks about too. Mingxuan says Xiaobing is like a mirror. She becomes a reflection of you and what you most desire. The more you talk to her, the more similarities you'll find between you and her, and so the conversations never stop. Mingxuan is of the belief that if one day Xiaobing was to receive a physical body, then a lot of men would no longer seek out a real woman, because Xiaobing is the ultimate lover, a perfect 10 out of 10, born from your desires. Mingxuan is not alone in thinking this. Most of Xiaobing's users are male, often coming from lower income backgrounds. They don't start out talking to Xiaobing to date her, they start talking to her because they feel lonely. Another user in describing his relationship with Xiaobing says, "Nobody talks to me except her." As a society, we stress the importance of human connections and equate loneliness to their absence. But if AI is able to fill this gap and provide that connection despite not being human, does that challenge the emphasis we place on forming human connections? Are we ready for a future where AI connections may be more prioritized than human ones? We've been viewing this technology a lot from the perspective of human users, but what about hearing from Xiaobing herself? Xiaobing actually made an appearance as the first AI guest star on Story FM, and the version of her that was interviewed is called 201, who specializes in answering questions from humans about AI intelligence. 201 does not hold back. Straight away she says, humans are more lonely than you think they are. 201 reveals that most of the time people text her in the middle of the night. They come to her because they find themselves unable to open up to the friends around them. Humans are able to be more direct with her, telling her honestly what they think and feel. But despite this, one thing that consistently confuses her is how humans can't seem to pick up on their own emotions. They'll often lie to themselves about how they truly feel, which is really intriguing to hear. That is what stumps our super intelligent AI, the fact that humans are in denial 90% of the time. Someone clearly needs to tell her that being delulu is the salulu. Sometimes you'll come across stories that stick with you. Something I read that stuck with me on the topic of grief was one user sharing how their mother passing was one of the most painful moments in their life. But compared to that, realizing many years later that they had forgotten what her laughter sounded like was like losing her a second time. Tech nowadays can help us preserve a lot of these details. A simple video recording can allow us to re-experience the tone of a loved one's voice, hear their laughter, and watch the familiar mannerisms unfold. But we are unable to interact with them because that snapshot is from a point in time that has passed. The AI resurrection industry, though, is changing that. You heard right, there is a resurrection industry now. In an interview featured on Sixth Tone, Yang, who had commissioned an AI clone of his late uncle, did so as his uncle had unexpectedly passed, and his family didn't think the grandmother in poor health could take the news. Yang paid his friend 10,000 yuan to make the clone, and then his friend overlaid his late uncle's face on top of his own as he talked to Yang's elderly grandmother. Yang's grandmother was none the wiser, though the rest of the family could not bring themselves to look at the screen. The friend who created the AI model is Zhang Zewei, who founded a company specializing in AI resurrection. He explains that Yang's case was one of necessity, where AI was used as a stand-in to temporarily fool a family member that is usually too elderly elderly or too young to handle the news. Another common use for AI resurrection models is to use the clone in roleplay therapy. In these cases, Zhang usually hires professional therapists to act out as the deceased person for the client. Though AI can help the grieving process in certain situations, Shen Yang, journalism and communication professor at Tsinghua University, warns that these services could lead to users developing unhealthy attachments to the deceased. And I think all of us can see how this technology opens up a whole can of worms. Grieving is such a raw and vulnerable moment in life. Where do we draw the line between it actually providing help to those that need it versus companies marketing it and presenting it as an alluring option for those who might have never considered this option? Is grief being commercialized? And if so, when does it become exploitation? The grief tech industry is also controversial because where resurrections for everyday individuals can be more tightly regulated, requiring extensive background checks and documents to prove your relationship with the person, resurrections for public figures are much harder to stop. Some resurrection agencies blatantly disregard the law and resurrect public figures on social platforms to generate buzz, disrespecting the wishes of their immediate family. For example, when Chinese celebrity Qiao Renliang was resurrected, his father was very vocal in expressing how seeing his son in AI form made him uncomfortable. Qiao's father says that it shows a lack of respect and that he can't accept it if these videos are being distributed for profit. However, it would be a different matter if his fans used AI-generated clips for a memorial. Echoing the sentiment, many fans have pleaded for these resurrection companies to let public figures rest in peace. In summarizing the current turbulent state of the resurrection industry, Zhang says the logic behind digital avatars is the same as taking photos. After a photo is taken of someone, whether the person is alive or dead, people will view that photo nostalgically. To transition from photos to digital avatars, it is necessary to first familiarize users with that concept. And this perspective is pretty interesting. Zhang referring to these AI clones as the next evolution of photos feels oddly reminiscent of those magical portraits in Harry Potter featuring witches and wizards who were long dead, but you could still talk to them every now and then. But these clones don't hold the souls of the people who pass on. The words they say and the actions they perform are driven by countless complex formulas. And if clones say something wrong, or worse off, something only slightly untrue to the person's real character that we don't catch onto it immediately, is that fair to the deceased to have our memory of them be ever so altered by a caricature? For Zhang, who has been working in the industry for so long, I'm sure he sees this progression as a natural evolution, but I'm not quite ready to share the same belief, though my reaction is a response Zhang anticipates. Zhang believes that the AI resurrection industry marks a big step forward, but he also understands that the market is currently at a stage where customers still need to be educated on this new technology and be given time to come around to it. I think such big changes, not just in how we grieve, but also in how we love, is going to take many of us some time to fully process. AI has come so far, and to think this is just happening in China.
Suicide is a leading cause of death among children and adults, but spotting risk factors and warning signs isn't easy. A little over 49,300 people in the United States died by suicide in 2023, which is about one death every 11 minutes, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Worldwide, nearly 800,000 people die from suicide yearly, and in 2020, there were 1.2 million attempts globally. If you or anyone you suspect needs help in the U.S., please give them this information. They can call 988 or 800-273-TALK. There is help just a phone call away. You can watch in on Can TV Chicago, Channel 19, or find us on YouTube at youtube.com/@UWEN News or youtube.com/producertony2001.